So I probably say one of the things I learned is not always necessarily the person that has the most resources, but it's the person that's the most resourceful. So regardless of whatever your situation is, I mean, if you're down here, if you're up here, looking around and saying, okay, not focusing on the what don't I have, but what do I have, and what are the connections that I can make, and who are the people that are really doing it right. And I'd say honestly, man, and if someone's just kind of getting started, one of the things, believe it or not, that was huge for me is you can tell who those influencers are. You can easily spot them. You can identify them because they're doing things. They're putting stuff out. They're hanging around the right kind of people. If you want to know what they're doing, 9 times out of 10, they're happy to tell you. Like I can probably think of 2 or 3 guys right off the bat that I literally reached out to them. I saw them on social media. I said, hey dude, my name is, I see you're doing incredible things. You got this going. Can I buy you a coffee? And 2, maybe 3 of like my best friends now came because I just invited them out. I said, can I pick your brain for an hour? Happy to buy you, coffee and lunch at a Starbucks. And let's go from there. And like, just because I've done that, just the fact that I was willing to be vulnerable and say, hey, I would love to learn what you're doing. I want to get in that spot. Just like you're always talking about communication. Will you show me? Will you teach me? And people that are at that point that have that kind of expertise are usually more than happy if you come off and you're genuine about it, that they'll be like, look, I'd recommend do this, do this, do this, do this. And I took them up on that action. And you kind of pull those little golden nuggets from each one of those people. You learn just by simply kind of watching what they're doing, and just, you kind of stay in their vicinity. You have all your documents over here that kind of house your information, like a Dropbox or a Google Drive, right? And then maybe you have like your chats over here, like your Messenger or your SMSs or your text or your mini chat or what's the other one? WhatsApp. So between the communication and between like where you house all your documents, there's got to be some sort of like central hub that allows all this communication and dialogue to flow through with the correct process and procedures of what needs to happen. So any kind of SOP, standard operating procedures, anytime, anything can be templated, especially on all the mundane stuff that comes in. When you're invoicing a customer, like when you're doing your podcast, you have a very specific list of things that need to come out. So the communication that flows throughout your entire team, throughout your organization, you don't have to replicate it all the time. It's not on you. Like, you don't become the bottleneck of like typing the same thing out or doing the same thing over and over and over. So what a tool like, and this is the first thing I ask every client I have, like, where do you manage all your stuff? And most of them don't. So a project management tool like Asana allows you to be very specific, where you can have, I think, so part of that is figuring out, just in my opinion, what are you really good at? Like, if you could close your eyes and you said time and money were not an issue, how would you spend your day? What would you want to talk about? And when you think about it from that point, a lot of times what I've seen people do is they chase after the money first. Like, they see a lot of guys, it could be a YouTube commercial. Hey dude, I just made $30,000 in my business. I'm going to show you how. And then all of a sudden they start taking this one course and they take the next course, and it's like shiny object syndrome. And they start picking at things that they think will make them cash fast. And then they try and implement on those. But here's the challenge with that is that if you want to be really good and you want to do this for the long haul, and you want to provide lead magnets that you can confidently stand behind and give value. Do you ever read that book called Good to Great? I think it was Jim Collins. So he said there's 3 things that if you really want to be a phenomenal business and go from like good to great, you got to love what you do. You got to be the best at what you do, and it's got to make financial sense. So if you can nail all 3 things of those, then when you put out a lead magnet, there's going to be a lot more value, because I think it's going to be more heart generated and more internally, given from a place of, hey, I really want to help you in this area, not just, hey, here's an opt-in, buy my shit, I'm going to try and sell you something. I think it's 2 different approaches. And honestly, like, for a while, like, I didn't get it when I first started, and everyone that was doing really successful, which when I first started, I was not, said, it's got to be about like, what can you give? What is the maximum amount of value and the best content that you can put out, period? Because when you focus on that, people will gravitate towards that.